Alright, here's a special hardware video on the Nintendo 64 controller. This one here is the real thing, and I have a knockoff that has a real plug to the real thing. Then I have the 8bitdo, which is actually the real purpose of this video, but I'll get to that in a second. And then I have a knockoff USB version, and I have a RetroLink USB version. And I'm going to start off with the joysticks because most people seem to either love or hate this controller, and the biggest complaint is the joystick. So the original controller, the joystick, I think is absolutely phenomenal. A lot of people don't, but I do. And I think it allows for more range. It allows for Mario 64 to tiptoe very slowly, tiptoe even faster, tiptoe even faster, a little more movement, and he starts running, and you can seriously run all the way, and jump, all that good stuff. So there's specific games like Mario 64 that actually require that range that you just don't get in modern controllers. Now, what's great about this original controller is when you pull the screws out and open her up, you discover that the controller's joystick actually is plug and play. It unplugs and you can buy a new one and replace it instead of the whole controller. So the knockoff version, its joystick is really stiff. It's really sad. I know personally from playing this, the buttons are really hard to push. They sound good, but they are not good. Sometimes you hit them and they don't actually work. You gotta push hard, which is not good at all. The D-pad is a bit stiff, but it actually feels decent. But is the joystick removable? Well, you can see through this one. You can see the PCB right through the colored plastic. And if I flip her over, this one's a bit hard to see, but there is a wire that comes around in here, and it appears to me that it looks hardwired, but I'm going to pull it apart and find out. And this is the one I really want to pull apart to find out, because its joystick would be great if you could replace it, because once one of these fail, what do you do other than bring it to someone that knows how to solder? So in any case, before I open this, I would have to say that this joystick is surprisingly superior to the real thing. There's a lot of movement in this, but this is like a really good one. There's not much movement in comparison to most people's worn out controllers. This one's actually really good. You can see the movement there, and you look at this one and the movement you see a lot more, especially in the angled sections. But I promise that while you're playing a game, it's really nice. It has all the range it should. It feels really smooth. It almost feels like the real thing. Left and right feel a hair springy. Up and down is super smooth. Is where the real thing, left and right and up and down, pretty much feel exactly the same. Everything rangefully feels the same. As for the buttons, I'm really impressed with the buttons on this thing, because this is the original controller and they feel good, but in comparison to the 8bitdo Retrobit, these pop and yet they don't misfire like these do, even though these ones pop. Oh no, sorry, this one doesn't misfire. They're kind of the same color. Actually, one's green, this one's turquoise, but yeah, this one misfires. They're hard to push, but they feel, if they weren't hard to push, they feel better than the real controller. But this one misfires, and it's not really great. This one actually is great. It feels great. It feels better than the stock controller, and its joystick, it's a hair stiffer than the stock controller, but it's not like this thing where it's like really hard to move. This controller feels fairly decent, and when you play with it, it plays really well. But then we get to the RetroLink, and this thing is super stable. Like, it ain't, I don't know, let's see about this one. Yeah, that's janky. This is super stable. I got 3 of these. I love these controllers. They're hard to get a hold of now. They went out of print, just like the 8bitdo went out of print, but you know, the RetroBit is actually the same company, if you look into it, as RetroLink. Now, I don't know how exactly 8bitdo and RetroLink, or RetroBit in this case, got together. I don't know if it's RetroBit that caused 8bitdo to stop making this, because they make the Super NES controllers even to this day. And all the bad reviews on this controller, I thought, were because of the joystick, and I read that there was bad reviews on the joystick, and yet I've used this, and it is really, really nice. But nothing is as smooth as the RetroLink controller. However, even though this is super smooth, I still think I prefer the springiness of the RetroBit 8bitdo. And this thing's wireless, which overall makes it the best. So I'm going to start with this one and pull her apart and see how that goes. Oh, oops, sorry about that. Trying to get this set up here. Okay. So, oh boy, that is not what I wanted. Okay, let's try this. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so one of the noticeable things about this is that it's hard to see in there. I don't have a light. There's just plastic in here. There's screws in here like the others. Like, oh, come on, quit doing that. Sorry about that. So, yeah, it's a bit sad that this doesn't have working plugs, but it is nice that there's plastic there, because the RetroLink, it's open to that you can't see the PCB in there, but it's open to the PCB if you angle it enough, which you can't see with this video, sorry, but you can kind of see the PCB. The knockoff one as well, you can fully see the PCB. It's actually really bad. So, yeah, I guess that's a downside to the RetroLink controller, that it doesn't have the add-on to it. But it's wireless. I can't really complain. So let's pull this thing apart, or I'll pull this thing apart. I'm really hoping that it has a replaceable joystick, even though the joystick feels nicer than a stock controller. I would have to say that it's eventually going to wear out over time of use. And even if my replacement is not as good, I've found replacements for the actual N64 controllers, and they are like the real thing. You can't tell any difference. So if I can get those to work in here, that would be very nice. This screw is causing me problems. Okay, got that one. And yes, these things have a lot of screws. After this screw is pulled out, I have 4 more to go. Some screws are easy and others are quite difficult for some reason. Like I say, I've never seen anyone pull the 8bitdo apart. It's been 5 years since this controller's been out and sadly discontinued. And I was afraid to buy one when they were cheaper, and now they're far more expensive. And I was lucky to get this one at a decent price. So now I guess I'm the one to actually do it after all these years. Alright, we are... Whoa, that came apart pretty easy. Uh-oh. I see already that it is hardwired. That is a very sad shame. Yep, you can see it coming off of here, and actually you see others. Well, nothing that a little solder can't help if truly need be. So, now I'm curious the rest of the way. Because I know this thing has a battery in it. I bet it's a janky battery. Okay, it looks like the PCB really doesn't want to come out of there. Don't know why. I'm kind of feeling like it is because this is screwed in. I felt the lack of tension take place on this screw. Yet it's still in there. No, it can't be. Okay, moving on. Okay, I foresee a problem. This here is in the way of my screw. Okay, I moved it. So as long as that doesn't snap any of the lines. Yep. Why unscrew it if you're not going to take it all the way? Dropped my screw, but I found it. Oh wow. The Z button is actually screwed to and mounted to. Some of these screws just don't come out. There we go. Z button was actually mounted to the joystick. Oh no. That's pretty wild. Okay. Unscrewing that actually opens it. Okay. So it was kind of bad. Gotta feel where it's actually properly originally screwed in. Okay, that's good. Except, okay, yeah, that does it. So this screw opens this whole thing up. And I've opened these things before, and usually they're really kind of a pain. Actually, yeah, I can already see that this did not seat. There it goes. Oh, this one actually looks easier, but who knows what the inside looks like. I don't want to mess with that, to be honest. I just want to get this PCB out of here. Oh, that's what was hanging it up. That was kind of my fault earlier. The charging port power plug USB was holding it in place. Okay. And yeah, that is a chintzy battery. Run of the mill junk. But that looks easily replaceable if it ever needs to be. I guess it was supposed to be glued on there, but yeah, it's a bit sticky. It's supposed to stick. Okay. Yeah. That's it. Looks like a normal controller with this little extra piece for the wireless. That's what I assume. Alright. So, yeah, this is not plug and play. That's a true shame. Now that that's apart, let me do a real controller so you can see what I mean about the plug and play. Oh, these screws are already easier. Where'd that screw go? There it is. Yeah, these screws are way easier. They come out quicker too. I keep twisting and they're already actually out. These small ones are longer inside. I can't seem to. There we go. Alright. And I can already show you, there's the piece. And it comes up around and plugs into the joystick. And let me show you. It's so nice. Probably should be using a flathead screwdriver for this. Oops. Yeah, I should be, because I know it comes out much easier. Sorry, bear with me here. I don't want to break it. It kind of feels like I see it coming. Seems a bit harder than what I'm used to, but there it is. So yeah, joystick actually is replaceable, plug and play, without even having to remove all this other stuff, not even the joystick. And the 8bitdo is wired. Very disappointed. And it plugs back in with ease. Now, I'm very curious. Here is the Axle N64 backing. Here is the 8bitdo, and they felt identical. Oh, I was going to see how well they fit, but I already know it can't. this will not. Well, that was a thought. Just to see how similar and close they were in molding, but yeah, that won't work. Okay, no big deal. Well, the only one I'm really interested, I mean, these other two I already know for sure, 100% they're hardwired, but I'm curious about this one, because this one has such a, difficult to use joystick. It's just super stiff. Then again, it doesn't matter because you can hit a button and it doesn't respond sometimes. And yeah, like I say, I can look in here and I can see already. Actually, looking at it though, it might be a different type of plug. It kind of does look that way. That it actually does plug in, but it's a different style. I guess I have to do this. Even though my main goal is done with the 8bitdo, I really have that curiosity now. These screws come out easier than the 8bitdo. Oh, I'm kind of off camera. And my camera kind of fell. I'm going to finish the screw here. Get that back into place. Sorry about that. Thing is, if it's a different plug, I don't know how I'd find another controller that is, or I'm sorry, not a controller, but another joystick manufacturer like the one I know to be able to replace it if it's actually different. Alright. All the screws are out, and this one doesn't want to open. Wow. It must have locking mechanisms. I felt one pop here up front. For a janky controller, it has nice build. They don't want you opening it up, apparently. Which doesn't make good sense. Wow, it is super loose and something is holding. I feel like I'm gonna break it. That is really tight. Okay. So that came off. And it is hardwired. Well, it's kind of funny. Nintendo's the one that's always trying to make things proprietary. And for once, Nintendo actually did it right in comparison to everyone else. Because every one of these controllers is hardwired, except for Nintendo. That's surprising, and I'm sure you don't want to watch me put all this back together, so I guess that concludes my video. I guess my next one will be showing off how well the 8bitdo actually works in real time. And I promise, it actually does.